Hi everybody, so today we're painting Valentine's cards. If you need to make some cards for friends, or maybe your kids even need to do some for friends at school, whatever it is, stay tuned. I will show you exactly how to paint these. And so I have my paper cut perfectly. I have my water, my watercolor paints sprayed down, ready to go. A little bit of a rag for dabbing your brush. And then let's talk about our brushes. This is a number 6 round. And I do have a liner as well. You can use something else like a number 1 or number 2 for details. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to do a very light sketch just so that we know our composition and where we're going. I forgot to mention, but we are using a wash brush right now just for the beginning of this painting. So we're going to wet our brush and just start painting water. Yeah, literally painting water over the surface of the paper. You don't want it to be so wet that it's puddling and pooling, but you also want it to have a nice glimmer to it when you look at it and you see the light shining off of it. I'm also leaving a really thin border where it's dry because I don't want any paint going there. Just grabbing some paint, we're gonna do some pink and maybe some red and some yellow, and just start adding that color in. We're gonna make a really cool background before we add in our actual composition, which is going to be a giant heart and the words love. So that was the first card that you saw at the beginning. So as you can see, I'm just blobbing on that paint, just kind of dipping in to watery paint and then also saturated paint. If you want it more saturated, just go ahead and dip into the paint wells themselves without actually mixing it in the mixing tray. So we're going to make this all gloppy and wet, and we're even going to pick it up here. Just allow that paint to drip down and spread. That's the beauty of watercolor. We want to make a really beautiful, vibrant background. Let's take some yellow, just directly into the yellow, and just dab that on. And it's going to look really pretty in the background. You don't have to worry too much. You can even add in just some water and drip that on or blob it on. You have some pooling here from where it was just dripping downward. Just go ahead, remove some of that water if it's too much. You can do that by taking a damp brush and just dabbing up that liquid. All right, now we've allowed this to dry and we're ready to start our composition on the top. So I'm going to just draw in a large heart here above the center of my paper. So just go slowly. If you have like a cookie cut out, that's a heart shape, you can use that. Or you can just freehand it. If you don't like it, erase and try again. LOVE here on the bottom. And it's just giving us a nice start of our composition so that we know everything is going to go where it's supposed to go. And I'm going to use my number 6 round brush, and we're going to do some purple and pink. So take your purple color. I have a fuchsia color that I have in my palette, so that's mixing up really nicely. And we're just going to paint this heart shape. You're going to notice that you'll see it's looking like a very vibrant, glowy, pinkish color. And that's because since our paint is so transparent, some of those yellows that are in the background are shining through. And so you can see those different tones coming out, which is really beautiful. If you paint really thinly, you'll notice a lot more of that background showing up. I'm going to have a mixture of the thin paint and a little bit thicker paint because I'd like a variation in the values. So just go ahead and paint that in. It might be easier to use a larger brush just to cover the space faster, but I like the number 6 because it gives me a good range. I can do details, and I like how it turns out with this. So I'm just darkening up the left side, and I think I'm going to remove some paint here. Just take a clean damp brush and remove some paint. It just makes a little bit of more interest in your design. All right, and this is going to be for our letters now. So just be very careful. If you wanted to do cursive, you could. That would look really pretty here too. I just thought that I would go simple here. Now, I am not a person who is really good at hand lettering. It's not something that I've practiced. So we're just going simple. We're going with the basics here. If you've got the fancy in you, go for it. Cursive would be really pretty here as well. So now we're just going to do a little bit of splattering and our composition will be done for this one. It's pretty easy, pretty simple, like I promised. Anyone can do it. And once that's all taken care of, we're going to go over to our next card. All right, we're ready for the next composition. And with this one, we're going to start sketching it in so we have everything ready. We're going to do that tree with the little heart decorations. So this can be very simple. You can follow this. If it's a little challenging for you, you could pull up a reference photo of a tree, or you can practice on a piece of paper that's not your card stock if you'd like to before you do your final piece. But that's the nice thing about using a pencil, because you can erase. So I am drawing it in really lightly because I don't want it to show through the watercolors. For this tree, I thought about doing a brown one, and then I decided, you know what, let's go for a pink tree because, 'tis the season with Valentine's. It's going to be a nice contrast. So I'm holding my pencil really loosely. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I've been trying to practice more of a loose style lately. And so even with these branches, I'm just allowing the pencil to kind of shake a little bit, or maybe it's my hand. Don't be so calculated about making these straight sticks. Sticks are not straight, and it doesn't even look good that way, in my opinion. I think the wonkier the branches, the better. So if you feel like you need to practice this, fine, but I would just go for it. Use your eraser when you need it, and voila, you've got it going. All right, our number 6 round brush, it's got a really nice pointy tip. It's great for the thin branches and for the thicker limbs of our tree and the trunk and all the things. So we're dipping into that fuchsia again, the purple, and make sure you have enough water so that you can spread on really well. You can always darken up any spaces that you feel need more paint later on. So don't be afraid to go light and then darken up later. I think that's one of the mistakes that we can make in watercolor when we just start out, is to just do really, really thick paint like it's an acrylic paint. Maybe like it's the craft paint that we used to use when we were kids. And with watercolor, one of the beauties is that you can get so many different values or different light and dark colors through just adding water and are adding pigment. So start light and go dark, and you will not regret it. So we're just going to paint in all of these little limbs. And like I said, just like with our sketch, make sure just to kind of think loose and easy. This is supposed to be an easy, relaxing painting. It's not like we are going to be putting it into a competition. And it's not like someone is going to be judging it harshly. You're going to be sending this to a friend, or maybe your child will be taking it to school to give to one of their friends. And so it's just a little act of love to create a card by hand. Anyone can buy a card, but not everyone takes the time to create something beautiful to share with someone else, to brighten up their day, bring them a little bit of cheer. And that's what we're trying to do today. So as you're getting all those branches in, like I said, you can see also, I tried to go lighter, but we can darken up here as we see it. And remember, since watercolor is going to dry one shade lighter, you do want to account for that. And so if you like the shade or the value that you have in front of you, well, make sure that you darken it a little bit, because it will not stay, and it'll get a little bit lighter. Remembering all the things we've talked about before about enjoying the process of painting, and just checking in with yourself at this point to see, are you feeling relaxed? Are you having a good time? If you're feeling frustrated or stuck, reminding yourself this is practice, this is for someone else. And even if you feel like at the end of this, it turns out poorly in your opinion, you can always do another one. And it'll turn out even better because you've practiced it before and you know where we're going with all this. So if you see any other places where you'd like to add in a little branch, go for it. I'm just going to darken up the left side of this painting because I feel like we can kind of do a little bit of a shadow. And then just take a look overall to see if you need to add any more details or any more branches here. All right, I'm just going to put this over here so we can see it. It's drying. What we're doing now is we're taking a fresh, clean brush and we're going to start scrubbing around our tree. The idea here, I know it sounds scary, but the idea is that we want to allow some of that fresh paint that is sort of dry but not quite. We want to allow it to spread. It's going to give us our really beautiful diffused background. So don't be intimidated by this. I know that some of you are going to have a hard time with this because if you have any type of anxiety, it's going to be hard to allow that paint to spread. And that's kind of the beauty of watercolor, because it is so unpredictable. And when you're adding fresh water to these objects that are not quite dry, you're going to get spreading and bleeding and uncomfortable lines, and your composition is just going to be in question as to how it's going to turn out. But I promise it's going to be beautiful in the end. You just have to stick with it. And the idea with this is that we're going to get really beautiful soft lines. And look at that, that really spread very far. I love that. Especially on the trunk, it was pretty wet, so you're going to get more spreading. Now, once this is dry, you can go back into your painting and take some fresh paint and just redefine some of those lines if you feel like things have spread so much they're not really recognizable. So you can go ahead and sharpen up the objects again. So don't worry about that. It's going to be good. I'm even adding in extra water here. We want to do some little blooms, a little extra color. And I love how it spreads out so nicely and kind of blooms. It's just a really nice look. So we'll finish that up, allow it to dry, and then we'll be back for the details. Okay, this is all dried up now. And you can go ahead and look at your composition and see if there's anything you need to change. I think I'm going to just redefine a few different spaces here. So I've got my purpley paint, and we're just going to just redefine that shadow side, make it a little bit darker. Since our values do lighten up, go ahead and do that if you feel like you need to. Every tree is going to be different. Everyone's going to use a different amount of water. So I do see also there's a few branches here that just kind of mellowed out. You can't see them anymore. So really light paint, I'm just going to go over them again so that they show up. No big deal. And for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how this dried and how the paint spread here. And I really love doing a background color like this, although you could leave it white if you prefer it that way. That is also fine. So there's many options here when we're doing this and similar paintings. So now for the fun part, we're going to take our red color and we are going to make some lovely decorations for our tree. Now we are painting for Valentine, so of course we're doing tiny hearts. Now tiny hearts can be labor intensive and they can be really hard to do with a small brush. Here I'm using a number 2 round, and you could use your liner, but there's so little control with that being such a long tip. So just use a shorter brush and you'll have more control. But it can be still pretty challenging to paint the heart shape. I'm having a hard time myself. Just painting the right side is easier, but then when I start to do the left side of the heart, it feels like the brush doesn't have a lot of control, or maybe I don't have a lot of control over the brush. So just go very slowly and easy on this, and I promise it will be worth it. These little hearts are so adorable. You can do larger shaped hearts if you wanted to. You could do different colors of hearts. I just chose to do these red ones because we have our pinky purple background and our pink purple tree. So I hope you are enjoying this. We had some broad strokes with a large brush doing the background color, and now we're doing really intricate detailed work with our small brush. We had medium brush strokes, of course, with our tree. And so we're just getting in the whole range of practice. And practice is the most important thing when you're trying to do art and you're trying to get better. And talent really, it might have something to do with it, but I'm not a huge believer in that it's all talent, because you could have all the talent in the world and you never practice and you're going to be terrible. So the more you practice, the better your hand will get at those small muscle movements. The muscle memory will kick in, where your hand will be like, oh, right, I know how to paint this. I've done this before. I know where we're going with this. You get to know your brushes, kind of how to hold them, whether you're going to have a tight hold or a loose hold, whether you're going to hold really down, far down close to the tip of the brush, or in the middle of the handle, or towards the end of the handle. And that all makes a big difference in the types of brush strokes that you get. So down here, I'm adding a little heart. I thought it would be cute to do a little heart with an arrow going through. I can already tell that we're barely going to see that. So I think later I'll go in, once it's dry, with just a little bit of a waterproof pen It doesn't have to be waterproof. That's just what I have. And I'm going to outline it and trace it so that we can see that and that will show up better. Okay, liner brush time. I'm using that with a brown color. Make sure you have enough water in your brown. And we're just going to use it for the little connector. We're just assuming that these are like little heart ornaments. And so we're just going to draw a little string or whatever you want to call it. The little hook that's attaching it to the branch. So let's see if my brush can cooperate. Sometimes this can be a tricky brush. If you put too much water on it, too much watery paint, then you're going to have a hard time because it's going to be dripping. It's easily, dripping little beads of watery paint on your painting. But if you have too little and then it's really dry and it's not painting, and it's hard to tell with this brush that has so few hairs. So just make sure everybody gets a little string, and then at this point we're going to take that pen and I'm just going to trace around the little heart just like I said I would. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I will definitely show you a close-up later so you can see the final cards. And this is a great pen by Etcher. I just received it in the mail, complimentary from them because they wanted me to try out some of their products. So I will be posting a video soon to YouTube on my reactions to the products and demonstrating some of the paints and showing you guys the brushes and all the things, including these pens. Pretty exciting. So that'll be up at some point soon. Yeah, so now we can see the little arrow and the heart, and I'm just adding in T plus J, Tammy plus Jean, my husband. So, all right, guys, that's it. Here are the final cards on cardstock. Let me know in the comments any ideas you have for future videos. Like, subscribe, and share. See you later.